My name is Marcus, I'm 32 years old, and a software engineer from Seattle. Life was going well, until a car accident put me in the ICU, fighting for my life. I expected my family to rush to my side during the darkest moment of my existence. Instead, after 8 days of silence, my phone lit up with a text from my dad, need $50, 000, for Anna's wedding. Venue requires final payment. No concern about my condition. Nothing. That moment changed everything I thought I knew about family. Before I dive into what happened next, let me know where you're watching from in the comments, and don't forget to hit that like and subscribe button to support my channel. Trust me, you'll want to stick around for how this story ends. To understand why that text message hit me so hard, you need to know about my family. I grew up in Portland with my parents Robert and Elizabeth, and my younger sister Anna, who's 3 years younger than me. From the outside, we probably looked like a typical American family, but inside our home, the dynamics were complicated, and as I would later realize, deeply unhealthy. My father Robert built a moderately successful real estate business. He was obsessed with appearances and status. Every decision in our household revolved around how it would look to others or how it would benefit his business connections. My mother Elizabeth was quiet and compliant. She rarely contradicted my father and seemed to accept his authority as absolute. When he made decisions that hurt me, she would comfort me in private, but never challenge him publicly. The most painful aspect of my childhood was the blatant favoritism my parents showed toward Anna. It wasn't subtle, and it wasn't my imagination. Anna received everything: the newest clothes, the latest gadgets, summer camps, and extracurricular activities. Meanwhile, I wore secondhand clothes, and was told that if I wanted something extra, I needed to earn it myself. By 15, I was working part-time jobs after school and on weekends. I stocked shelves at the local grocery store and mowed lawns in our neighborhood. Anna never had to work. She received a generous allowance that increased as she got older. When I asked why I didn't get an allowance too, my father simply said, "You need to learn the value of hard work, son. Anna is different." The disparity became even more evident when college approached. I had maintained excellent grades, despite my part-time jobs, hoping it would finally earn my parents' approval. I was accepted to several good schools, including my dream university with a partial scholarship. I expected my parents would cover the remaining costs, as they had always implied they were saving for our education. "We can contribute $1,000 per semester," my father announced. "The rest is up to you. It'll build character." 3 years later, when Anna went to college, they covered everything: tuition, housing, meal plans, textbooks, and even gave her spending money. She attended an expensive private university without having to take a single loan or work a single shift. Despite this unequal treatment, Anna and I maintained a decent relationship. She was kind to me in her own way, and I never held her responsible for our parents' actions. I genuinely believed she didn't notice the disparity in how we were treated. We shared secrets and supported each other through teenage dramas. When I left for college, she would call me for advice about boys and friends. I cherished those calls because they made me feel valued, something I rarely experienced with my parents. After college, I landed a job at a tech company in Seattle. Moving away from Portland gave me the distance I needed from my family while still allowing me to visit monthly. My career took off quickly. I had a natural aptitude for coding and problem solving, and within 5 years, I was leading a development team with a comfortable 6-figure salary. As my financial situation improved, a disturbing pattern emerged. My parents began calling more frequently, but rarely, to check on my well-being. Instead, they needed money for home repairs, or my father had a temporary cash flow issue with his business. My mother's car broke down and needed replacement. Each time I transferred the money without hesitation, hoping that my generosity would finally earn their approval and affection. During this period, Anna graduated college and moved back to Portland. She got a job at a marketing firm, but didn't seem to face the same financial expectations from our parents. When she wanted to upgrade her car, our father helped her with the down payment. When she mentioned wanting to travel to Europe, our mother offered her frequent flyer miles. Last year, Anna met James, a successful investment banker from a wealthy family. After dating for 8 months, they got engaged. My parents were ecstatic. James represented everything my father valued: wealth, status, and connections. The wedding planning began immediately, and it quickly became apparent that this would be no small affair. "We're thinking about renting the Willows estate," my mother told me during one of our calls. "It's the most exclusive venue in Portland." "That sounds expensive," I replied, already sensing where this conversation was heading. "Well, yes, but this is Anna's special day. We want it to be perfect." Over the next few months, the wedding plans grew increasingly extravagant. Designer dress, gourmet catering, imported flowers, luxury cars. The budget seemed to have no limit, which was surprising, given my parents' frequent financial emergencies that required my assistance. Then came the first direct ask. My father called one evening while I was working late. "Marcus, we need to discuss your contribution to Anna's wedding," he said, without preamble. "My contribution? I assumed I'd be helping with the bachelor party. As the groomsman," I replied, confused. "No, son. Your financial contribution. As her brother, you're expected to help with the costs. We're thinking $50,000 would be appropriate given your situation." By situation, he meant my salary, which he had somehow learned about despite my never discussing it with him. I was stunned into silence, which he interpreted as agreement. "Great. I'll send you the account details. We need it within the month to secure the venue." That call left me feeling hollow. Not once had he asked about my life, my work, or my well-being. I was nothing more than an ATM to him. Still, part of me considered paying. After all, it was for Anna, and despite everything, I loved my sister. Little did I know that everything was about to change in ways I could never have imagined. The day that changed everything started like any other Tuesday. I woke up, brewed coffee, and headed to the office for an early meeting. Work was particularly stressful that week as we approached a major product launch. I stayed late to fix some critical bugs, finally leaving the office around 9 in the evening. It had been raining all day in Seattle, that constant drizzle that makes the roads slick and visibility poor. I was tired but focused on the road, driving my 4-year-old sedan along the familiar route home. I remember checking my mirrors and slowing down as I approached a curve on the highway. What happened next is still fragmented in my memory. My car hydroplaned on a patch of standing water. I remember the terrifying sensation of losing control, the car spinning, and then the violent impact as I crashed into a concrete barrier. The airbag deployed, slamming into my chest. There was glass everywhere, the crunching of metal, and then darkness. I woke up disoriented with a breathing tube down my throat and machines beeping all around me. I couldn't move, couldn't speak. The pain was overwhelming, radiating through my entire body. A nurse noticed I was conscious and quickly called for a doctor. "Marcus, you're in the hospital. You've been in a serious accident," the doctor explained after they removed the breathing tube. "You have 4 broken ribs, a punctured lung, internal bleeding that required surgery, and a severe concussion. You're in the intensive care unit." The severity of my condition slowly sank in. The doctor continued, "You're very lucky to be alive." The paramedics said it was one of the worst crashes they'd seen, where the driver survived. "Your recovery will take time, but we're optimistic." My first coherent thought was about notifying my family. When I was able to speak, I asked the nurse if anyone had been contacted. "Yes, we found your emergency contact information in your wallet. We called your parents in Portland yesterday right after you were brought in. They said they would tell your sister as well." Relief washed over me. My family knew. They would be here soon. I needed them now more than ever. But hours passed, then a full day. No one came. I asked for my phone, thinking perhaps they were trying to reach me. The nurse brought it from my personal belongings, but the battery was dead. She found a charger, and when my phone finally powered on, there were several missed calls and messages from work colleagues and friends, but nothing from my family. I managed to text my mother, with shaking hands. "In hospital. Bad car accident. ICU. At Seattle Memorial." Her reply came an hour later. "Oh no, that's terrible. Keep us updated." No mention of coming to see me. No questions about my condition. Just those cold, distant words. I called her, wincing through the pain. She answered on the 4th ring. "Hi, Marcus. We heard about the accident. How are you doing?" "Not great, Mom. I nearly died. The doctors say I'm lucky to be alive." Well, thank goodness for that. Your father and I are very busy with Anna's wedding preparations. You know how hectic things are right now. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. Mom, I'm in the ICU. I can't even get out of bed. I understand, sweetie. Maybe we can visit next week after we finalize the flower arrangements. The conversation left me devastated. I lay in my hospital bed, hooked up to machines, in excruciating pain, completely alone. The days that followed established a new routine. Doctors visited during morning rounds, explaining my injuries and recovery timeline in more detail. Nurses came hourly to check my vitals, administer pain medication, and help me with basic needs. Physical therapists began gentle exercises to prevent muscle atrophy during my bed rest. Through it all, the absence of my family was a constant ache worse than my physical injuries. I watched other patients receive visitors who brought flowers, food, and comfort. They had people advocating for them, asking doctors questions, holding their hands through painful procedures. I had no one. My colleagues from work were surprisingly supportive once they learned what happened. My boss called personally to assure me my job was secure and that I should focus solely on recovery. The HR department helped arrange my medical leave and short-term disability benefits. My team sent a care package with books, comfortable pajamas, and toiletries. These kindnesses from people who were essentially just professional connections highlighted the glaring absence of those who were supposed to love me unconditionally. By the 5th day, I was able to sit up in bed for short periods. The pain was still intense, but the doctors were pleased with my progress. I had developed a rapport with several nurses, particularly Nina, an older woman with adult children of her own. She noticed I never had visitors and took extra time to chat during her shifts. "No family coming today?" she asked gently on the 6th day. "No," I replied, trying to keep the bitterness from my voice. "They're busy with my sister's wedding." Nina frowned but didn't comment further. Instead, she helped me call my landlord to explain my situation and arrange for a neighbor to collect my mail. On day 7, I received a text from my sister Anna. "Heard you're in the hospital. Hope you're feeling better soon. So stressed with wedding planning. We'll try to call when things calm down." No call came. By the end of the first week in the ICU, I had accepted a painful truth: my family wasn't coming. Despite knowing I had nearly died, despite having the financial means to travel to Seattle, despite claiming to love me, they had chosen not to be by my side during the most vulnerable period of my life. The physical pain of my injuries was constant, but it was nothing compared to the emotional wound that was opening wider with each passing day. I woke up on the 8th day of my hospitalization to the ping of a text message. My heart leaped with hope. Finally, my family was reaching out in a meaningful way. Maybe they were letting me know they were on their way to the hospital. Maybe they had realized the severity of the situation and were coming to support me after all. I awkwardly reached for my phone on the bedside table, wincing as the movement pulled at my stitches and strained my broken ribs. The message was from my father. My thumb trembled slightly as I opened it, anticipating words of concern and love. Instead I read, "Need $50,000 for Anna's wedding. Venue requires final payment." I stared at the screen in disbelief, reading and rereading those 9 words. "No. How are you feeling? No. We're worried about you." No acknowledgement whatsoever that I was fighting for my life in an intensive care unit. Just a demand for money. In that moment, something broke inside me. Not my body, which was already broken enough, but something fundamental in my understanding of family and love. This wasn't an oversight or a mistake. This was a revealing moment of complete clarity. I saw the truth of my relationship with my parents with painful sharpness. My mind flashed back through years of similar moments I had rationalized away. When I graduated college with honors, my parents attended but spent most of the ceremony discussing Anna's upcoming summer plans. When I bought my first apartment and invited them to see it, they stayed for 30 minutes before leaving to help Anna shop for furniture for her rented place. When I received a major promotion last year, my father's first question was whether this meant I could contribute more to the family. I had always been a resource to them, never a son to be loved for myself. My hands shook as I remembered the previous financial emergencies they had pulled me into. 2 years ago, My father called, claiming his business was in trouble, and he needed $20,000 to avoid bankruptcy. I transferred the money immediately, only to see Facebook photos of my parents on a Caribbean cruise 3 months later. When I asked about the business crisis, he vaguely mentioned that things had worked out. Last year, my mother needed $15,000 for emergency dental work not covered by insurance. I sent the money without question. Later, I discovered through an offhand comment that she had opted for cosmetic procedures beyond what was medically necessary. Each time I had made excuses for them. Each time I had told myself that family helps family, that they would do the same for me if our positions were reversed. Now, lying in a hospital bed with tubes and monitors attached to my broken body, I had my answer about what they would do when I needed them. Nothing. I typed several responses and deleted them all. Too angry, too hurt. Finally, I wrote simply, "I'm in the ICU, fighting for my life after a car accident. The doctors say I'm lucky to be alive." His response came quickly. "That's unfortunate. So, about the money, can you transfer it today? The wedding planner is getting anxious." I stared at the phone in shocked, tears burning in my eyes. Nurse Nina came in to check my vitals and immediately noticed my distress. "What's wrong, Marcus? Are you in pain? Your heart rate is elevated." I couldn't speak. I just handed her my phone with the message thread visible. She read it, and her professional demeanor slipped for a moment as she frowned deeply. "Oh, honey," she said, putting a gentle hand on my shoulder. "I'm so sorry." "Is it me?" I asked, my voice breaking. "Am I expecting too much? Am I being selfish for wanting them to care that I almost died?" Nina sat on the edge of my bed, something she had never done before. "Marcus, listen to me. I've been a nurse for 27 years. I've seen all kinds of families in crisis. What you're asking for isn't just normal, it's the bare minimum. When someone you love is seriously hurt, you show up, period." She continued, her voice gentle but firm. "Some people aren't capable of giving love the way others need it. It doesn't mean you're unlovable. It means they're limited. The question is, how long do you keep hurting yourself by expecting something they've shown they can't give?" Her words hit me with the force of truth. For 32 years, I had been trying to earn the love and approval of people who were constitutionally incapable of giving it freely. I had been pouring my energy, love, and now my money into a bottomless pit, hoping that someday it would be enough, that someday they would see me. "What do?" I whispered. "That's entirely up to you," Nina replied. "But whatever you decide, know that you deserve better than this. Much better." She left to continue her rounds, and I lay there contemplating my entire relationship with my family. Every memory took on a new light as I recognized patterns I had been blind to before. The favoritism toward Anna wasn't just occasional, it was systematic. My parents' interest in my life wasn't just lacking, it was transactional. As the day progressed, my father sent 2 more texts asking about the money. My mother sent one message asking if I could please help your father with this wedding situation because he was very stressed about it. By evening, something had solidified inside me, a resolve I had never felt before. I had spent my life trying to buy love that should have been freely given. I had exhausted myself trying to be seen by people who had no interest in truly seeing me. I was done. With a clarity I had never experienced before, I picked up my phone and typed a final message to my father: "I won't be sending any money. Don't contact me again." Then I blocked his number. I did the same with my mother's number, and after a moment's hesitation, Anna's as well. She might not have been directly responsible for my parents' behavior, but she had been complicit in it, benefiting from their favoritism while ignoring how I was treated. The moment I blocked the last number, my heart rate monitor began beeping rapidly. A nurse I didn't recognize rushed in, concern on her face. "Your heart rate is spiking. Are you feeling chest pain?" "No," I managed to say, though in truth my chest felt tight with emotion. "I just made a difficult decision." She checked my vitals and adjusted my medication. "Try to stay calm. Your body is still healing, and stress can impede recovery." But calm was elusive. My mind raced with doubts and questions. Had I overreacted? Was I being too harsh? What would this mean for my future? Would I regret cutting off my entire family in a moment of hurt and anger? The next morning, a hospital social worker named Lisa came to see me. Nina had apparently reported her concerns about my emotional state. "I understand you're going through a difficult time, not just physically, but emotionally," Lisa said, pulling up a chair beside my bed. "Would you like to talk about it?" Something about her kind professional demeanor broke through my defenses. For the first time, I spoke openly about my family dynamics, the years of emotional neglect, the financial exploitation, and finally, the text message that had been the last straw. "I cut them off completely yesterday," I concluded. "Blocked their numbers and everything." "That's a significant step," Lisa acknowledged. "How are you feeling about it today?" "Conflicted," I admitted. "Part of me feels like I've finally stood up for myself, but another part feels guilty. There's this voice in my head saying that family is family, that I should forgive them, that maybe they didn't mean to hurt me." "Those are normal reactions," she assured me. "Our relationships with family are complex, and the cultural expectation that we should maintain those relationships regardless of how they treat us is powerful. But I want you to consider something: relationships, even family relationships, should be reciprocal. They should add value to your life, not continuously take from it." We talked for nearly an hour. Lisa didn't tell me what to do, but she validated my feelings and helped me see that my reaction was reasonable given the circumstances. She also recommended a therapist who specialized in family trauma for when I was discharged. As word of my situation spread among the hospital staff, I experienced an unexpected outpouring of support. Nurses brought extra pudding cups from the cafeteria. An orderly who had to transport me for scans shared stories about his own estrangement from his father. Dr. Wilson, my lead physician, made a point to sit with me longer during his rounds, explaining my recovery process in greater detail and asking about my support system outside the hospital. The contrast between how these virtual strangers treated me and how my own family had responded was stark and illuminating. 4 days after I blocked my family, I received a surprise visitor. Michael, my college roommate and friend, walked into my room carrying a potted plant and a stack of science fiction novels. "Holy shit, Marcus," he said, taking in my battered appearance. "You look terrible." It was exactly what I needed to hear. Not pity, but normal, honest friendship. I laughed, then immediately regretted it, as pain shot through my ribs. "How did you know I was here?" I asked. "Linda from work called me. Said you'd been in an accident and had no family around." I caught the first flight I could from San Francisco. I was touched beyond words. Michael and I had remained friends after college, but mostly caught up via texts and occasional video calls. He had taken time off work and bought a plane ticket just to be by my side. "Your family coming at all?" he asked, arranging the books on my bedside table. "No," I said, and for the first time, I didn't make excuses for them. They're not in my life anymore. Michael nodded, not pressing for details. "Well, I'm here for the next 3 days. My laptop and I can work from your room during the day, and I got an Airbnb nearby for nights. What do you need?" His simple acceptance and practical support meant everything. We spent those 3 days watching bad television, playing card games, when I had the energy, and talking about everything and nothing. He never pushed me to discuss my family, but when I voluntarily shared the text message incident, his response was immediate and validating. "That's fucked up, Marcus. You deserve better." 4 simple words that I needed desperately to hear. My colleagues also stepped up in ways I never expected. My team organized a schedule to deliver home-cooked meals once I was discharged. My boss visited personally, bringing a care package and assuring me my job was secure for as long as I needed to recover. The company's HR director helped navigate the complexities of medical leave and insurance. Amidst this unexpected support, I received several attempts at contact from my family. My father tried calling from his office phone, which I hadn't blocked. I let it go to voicemail. His message was terse. "This behavior is childish and unacceptable. Call me immediately." I deleted it without responding. A bouquet of flowers arrived with a card from my mother. "Praying for your recovery. Please call us. We're family and families forgive each other." The one-sided nature of the expected forgiveness wasn't lost on me. There was no acknowledgement of wrong, no apology, just an expectation that I would fall back in line. The most difficult message to receive was an email from Anna's subject line, "Please read." Marcus, I don't know what happened between you and Mom and Dad, but whatever it is, can't we work it out? My wedding is in 3 months, and I need my big brother there. I've always looked up to you. Please don't ruin this special time for me. Not a word about my accident. Not a single question about my health or recovery. Just concern about how my actions would affect her wedding. It was painful confirmation that I had made the right decision, even as doubt and guilt continued to needle me. Cultural programming runs deep, and the belief that family bonds should supersede all else was hard to shake. But each day that passed brought more clarity. The hospital social worker connected me with an online support group for people estranged from family members. Reading others' stories helped me realize I wasn't alone, that sometimes estrangement is the healthiest choice when relationships become toxic. As my physical strength gradually returned, so did my emotional resolve. The decision I had made from a hospital bed might have been abrupt, but it wasn't wrong. For the first time in my life, I had prioritized my own well-being over my family's demands, and despite the pain and doubt, it felt right. After 3 weeks in the ICU and regular hospital wards, I was finally discharged to continue my recovery at home. The doctors were pleased with my progress, but warned that full healing would take months. I had prescriptions for pain management appointments, for physical therapy, and strict instructions to rest. The logistics of managing alone while seriously injured were daunting. I couldn't drive, could barely walk without assistance, and simple tasks like showering or preparing food were challenging obstacles. Once again, my unexpected support system came through. Michael had returned to San Francisco, but had organized everything before leaving. My refrigerator was stocked with easy-to-prepare meals. A cleaning service was scheduled to come weekly. A pharmacy had delivered all my medications. Most surprisingly, my neighbors stepped up. I had lived in my apartment building for 3 years, but had only exchanged casual greetings with the other residents. Now Rachel, from apartment 4C, offered to pick up groceries whenever she went shopping. John, from 2A, a retired physical therapist, checked my walking technique and suggested exercises to complement my formal PT sessions. Mrs. Patel from across the hall brought homemade soup every few days, insisting that hospital food could not possibly have been adequate. My colleagues maintained their meal delivery rotation, each person bringing dinner and staying to eat with me once every 2 weeks. These weren't close friends before my accident, just people I worked with, but adversity revealed their character and kindness. Physical recovery was slow and often frustrating. Physical therapy sessions were painful, and progress seemed imperceptible day to day. There were setbacks days when the pain was overwhelming, when I pushed too hard, and had to rest for days afterward, when the simplest tasks left me exhausted and discouraged. But there were victories too. The first time I walked to the corner store without a cane. The day I managed to cook a simple meal for myself. The morning I realized I had slept through the night without waking in pain. Throughout this physical journey, I was also navigating the emotional aftermath of cutting off my family. Despite the clarity of my decision, doubt and grief came in waves. I missed the family I had always wished I had, not the one that had actually existed. I mourned the relationships that could have been, should have been. About 2 weeks after my discharge, the attempts to contact me escalated. A large flower arrangement arrived at my door with a card that read simply, "Please call home. Mom." It was the emotional equivalent of a guilt bomb designed to make me question my decision and fall back into established patterns. Then came an email from my father, the first direct communication since I had blocked his number. The subject line was "Financial Matters," which was telling in itself. "Marcus, this childish behavior has gone on long enough. Your sister's wedding is approaching, and family obligations must be met. We've had to scale back several aspects of the celebration due to your selfishness. If you ever want to be part of this family again, you will call me immediately and fulfill your responsibilities." No mention of my accident or recovery. No acknowledgement of why I might have cut contact. Just demands and threats. The most manipulative attempt came from Anna. She sent an email with photos attached of us as children smiling together at various family events. "Remember how close we used to be? I miss my big brother. Whatever Mom and Dad did, don't punish me for it. I need you at my wedding. It won't be complete without you. Please, Marcus. For me. It was the first acknowledgement from any of them that my parents might have done something wrong, but it was immediately followed by a request to put it aside for her benefit. Still, it affected me deeply. Anna and I had been close once before. Adult realities fully set in before the pattern of favoritism became so pronounced. I didn't respond to any of these contacts, but I brought them up in my first session with Dr. Melissa Carter, the therapist recommended by the hospital social worker. It sounds like they're escalating because their usual tactics aren't working, she observed after I described the communications. They're used to you eventually giving in, and your new boundaries are causing them to increase the pressure. I feel guilty, I admitted, especially about Anna. She didn't create the family dynamic. No, but she benefited from it and perpetuated it. Dr. Carter pointed out gently. From what you've described, she's continuing the same pattern now, focusing on her needs without acknowledging yours. Over the following weeks, Dr. Carter helped me identify and understand the dynamics that had shaped my family relationships. We discussed concepts like the golden child and scapegoat roles in dysfunctional families, emotional neglect, and conditional love. She introduced me to books and resources about setting boundaries and dealing with toxic family relationships. Most importantly, she validated my experience. After years of being told implicitly and explicitly that my feelings didn't matter, having a professional confirm that my pain was real and justified was profoundly healing. One of the most valuable resources Dr. Carter recommended was an online support group for adults estranged from family members. The group met virtually once a week, and listening to others share stories with elements that mirrored my own was both painful and comforting. I wasn't alone. Others had faced similar choices and found peace on the other side. During one particularly powerful session, a woman in her 50s shared her 20-year journey of estrangement from her parents. The grief never completely goes away, she said, but it changes. It becomes less about what you lost and more about what you gained: peace, self-respect, the ability to build healthy relationships without those toxic patterns. Her words gave me hope that the ache I felt wasn't permanent, that there was a path forward through this pain. As weeks turned into months, my physical recovery progressed steadily. By the 4-month mark, I was back to working remotely part-time. My ribs had healed, though I still experienced occasional discomfort. The internal injuries had resolved, and the surgical scars were fading. My concussion symptoms had mostly subsided, though fatigue still hit me unexpectedly at times. My emotional recovery was following a similar trajectory. The acute pain of the betrayal had dulled to a persistent ache. I still had moments of doubt and grief, but they were less frequent and less overwhelming. I was sleeping better, finding joy in small things again, and building confidence in my decision to prioritize my own well-being. Most surprisingly, I was developing deeper, more authentic relationships with the people around me. Without the constant drain of trying to win my family's approval, I had more emotional energy to invest in healthier connections. Rachel, my neighbor, who had helped with groceries, became a close friend. We discovered shared interests in hiking and photography, though my physical limitations meant we started with very easy trails as I continued to recover. Michael visited again from San Francisco, this time not out of crisis management but simply to spend time together. My work colleagues transitioned from being supportive during an emergency to genuine friends who included me in weekend plans and holiday gatherings. 6 months after the accident, I was cleared to return to work in person part-time. My first day back, my team had decorated my desk and organized a welcome lunch. It was a small gesture, but it highlighted the contrast between how these people treated me and how my family had. That night, I received another email from Anna. Her wedding was just a few weeks away, and this message had a different tone than her previous attempts. I don't expect you to respond, but I wanted you to know that James and I decided to pay for most of the wedding ourselves. Dad wasn't happy about it, but after what happened with you, I started questioning things more. Maybe you were right to set boundaries. I miss you. The invitation is still open if you change your mind. It was the first message from any of them that seemed to recognize my perspective as valid. I didn't respond, but I saved the email instead of deleting it immediately. I wasn't ready to re-engage, but perhaps a door that I thought was permanently closed had been left slightly ajar. When the day of Anna's wedding arrived, I felt a complex mixture of emotions. Sadness that I wouldn't be there for a significant moment in my sister's life. Relief that I wouldn't have to face my parents and extended family. A lingering sense of guilt that I quickly recognized as conditioned rather than genuine. And surprisingly, a sense of peace with my decision. I had decided to keep busy that day to avoid dwelling on what I was missing. Rachel and I had planned a day trip to a nearby state park, taking advantage of my now stronger physical condition to attempt a moderate hiking trail. The fresh air, gentle exercise, and companionship were exactly what I needed. When we returned to the city that evening, I reluctantly checked social media. As expected, photos from the wedding had begun appearing in posts from extended family members. I scrolled through them with a strange detachment, as if looking at the celebration of strangers rather than my own family. What struck me immediately was how much smaller and simpler the event appeared compared to the extravagant plans I'd heard about before cutting contact. The venue wasn't the exclusive Willows estate, but a charming local garden. Anna's dress was beautiful, but not the designer gown that had been described to me. The whole affair looked elegant but modest. Curious, I texted my cousin Timothy, the only family member I'd maintained minimal contact with during my estrangement. He had attended the wedding, but had respected my boundaries about not discussing family matters unless I initiated. "How was the wedding?" I asked. "Nice," he replied. "Smaller than I expected. Your dad seemed tense all day." I noticed it looked scaled back from the original plans. Timothy's response was illuminating. "Yeah, there was drama about that. Found out your dad's business has been struggling. He couldn't afford what he promised. Anna and James ended up covering most costs themselves. So, the desperate need for my $50,000 had been real, but not for the reason stated. My father hadn't been securing a venue deposit. He'd been trying to fulfill promises he couldn't keep without my financial support. The revelation didn't change my feelings about how they had treated me, but it added context to the situation. Almost exactly 1 month after the wedding, I received a text from an unknown number. "It's Anna. New phone. Can we talk just us?" After careful consideration and a consultation with Dr. Carter, I agreed to a phone call, my first direct contact with any family member in over 7 months. "Marcus," Anna said when I answered, her voice immediately cracking with emotion. "Thank you for picking up." "I'm listening," I replied, keeping my tone neutral. "First, I want to say, I'm sorry," she began. "I'm sorry I didn't come see you in the hospital. I'm sorry I didn't stand up for you all these years. And I'm sorry I expected you to contribute to my wedding when you were literally fighting for your life." Her directness surprised me. I had expected excuses or subtle attempts to pull me back into the family fold. Instead, she continued with remarkable self-awareness. "After you cut contact, a lot of things started making sense. James pointed out how differently Mom and Dad treat us. He was shocked by some of the stories I told him, things I thought were normal family dynamics. He helped me see that it wasn't right how they've always expected so much from you and so little from me." "That couldn't have been an easy realization," I said carefully. "It wasn't. It made me question everything. And then when Dad couldn't fulfill his financial promises for the wedding, James and I decided to scale back and pay for most of it ourselves. Dad was furious. He said it reflected poorly on him. That's when I really saw it, how much appearances mattered to him more than actual relationships." We talked for nearly 2 hours. Anna shared how she had always been aware on some level of the preferential treatment, but had been afraid to acknowledge it for fear of losing that protection. She admitted to feeling guilty about the advantages she'd received while watching me struggle. And she revealed that our parents had told extended family that I had abandoned them, painting me as the villain in the estrangement. "I corrected anyone who asked me directly," she assured me. "I told them you had legitimate reasons to distance yourself." When I finally shared the full story of the text message I'd received in the ICU, Anna was horrified. I don't even have words, Marcus. It's indefensible." "It was clarifying," I said. "Painful, but clarifying." Near the end of our conversation, Anna asked the question I'd been expecting. "Do you think you'll ever speak to Mom and Dad again?" "I honestly don't know," I answered truthfully. "Right now I'm focusing on healing both physically and emotionally. I'm not closing any doors permanently, but I need time and evidence of real change before I consider re-establishing contact. I understand, she said. For what it's worth, I respect your decision. And I hope that maybe you and I can rebuild our relationship separately from them. No pressure, and entirely on your terms. We ended the call with an agreement to text occasionally, with no expectations or obligations. It was a tentative first step toward a potential relationship that would be very different from our past dynamics. Over the next few months, Anna and I exchanged periodic text messages. She respected my boundaries, never pushing for more contact than I was comfortable with, never bringing up our parents unless I asked directly. She and James invited me to dinner when they were in Seattle for a weekend, a meeting I approached with caution, but which ended up being surprisingly comfortable. During that dinner, James shared an observation that resonated deeply. Family systems resist change, he said. When one person changes the rules like you did, by setting boundaries, everyone else tries to pull them back to the old patterns. Your parents are still in that phase trying to get you to fall back in line. Anna's trying to create something new. It was a compassionate and insightful way to frame what was happening, and it helped me maintain my resolve against the continued attempts from my parents to re-establish contact on their terms. My mother had started sending monthly emails, each one a mixture of guilt-inducing statements and superficial inquiries about my life. We're still your parents, Marcus. Nothing can change that. How is your job going? The neighbors asked about you yesterday. My father's approach was more direct. This has gone on long enough. It's time to put this foolishness behind us and be a family again. Your mother misses you. Neither acknowledged any wrongdoing, neither demonstrated any understanding of why I had cut contact. They simply expected me to return to the fold because time had passed. 6 months after Anna's wedding, I learned through her that our father's business was indeed in serious financial trouble. He had overextended, made some poor investments, and was facing potential bankruptcy. In the past, this would have been my cue to step in with financial assistance. Now, I acknowledged the information, but maintained my boundaries. He's an adult with decades of business experience, I told Anna when she shared the news. He'll figure it out. That's exactly what James said, she replied with a small laugh. I'm still learning how to not feel responsible for their problems. It was a sentiment I understood all too well. Breaking the pattern of enablement was an ongoing process for both of us. 1 year after the accident, that had nearly taken my life and instead transformed it, I stood at the large windows of my new apartment, looking out at the Seattle skyline. My physical recovery was nearly complete. I still experienced occasional pain in cold weather, and one of my scars tended to ache before rainstorms, but I had regained full mobility and strength. The doctors called it a remarkable recovery. My emotional recovery had followed a similar path. The acute pain of betrayal had faded to a dull ache that surfaced occasionally but no longer dominated my thoughts. I had built a life that felt authentic and fulfilling, surrounded by people who valued me for who I was, not what I could provide. My career had taken an unexpected positive turn. During my recovery, I had developed a side project that solved a persistent problem in software development. My company had implemented it company-wide, and I had received a promotion to lead a new innovation team. The role came with more flexibility, better compensation, and most importantly, the opportunity to do work that felt meaningful and valued. My personal relationships had deepened and expanded. Michael and I now had monthly video game nights, a tradition that kept our friendship strong despite the distance. Rachel and I had started dating 6 months earlier, a slow-building relationship founded on genuine care and shared values. My social circle had expanded to include colleagues who had become friends, neighbors who had become like family, and new acquaintances who entered my life without the baggage of my past. I had even created new holiday traditions to replace the obligatory and often tense family gatherings of my past. Thanksgiving was now a Friendsgiving potluck hosted at my apartment. Christmas included volunteering at a local shelter, followed by a gift exchange with close friends. These new traditions felt more meaningful and joyous than any family holiday I could remember. My relationship with Anna had cautiously evolved into something healthier than before. We texted regularly and called monthly. She and James had visited Seattle twice, and I had gone to Portland once to meet them for dinner in neutral territory. She continued to respect my boundaries regarding our parents and never pressured me to reconcile. My parents' attempts at contact had followed predictable patterns. My mother alternated between guilt-inducing messages and superficial overtures that never acknowledged the underlying issues. 3 months earlier, she had sent a lengthy email that came closest to an actual apology, though it still contained qualifiers. "If we did anything to hurt you, we're sorry. We just want our son back." My father remained more direct and less yielding. His messages became less frequent, but maintained the same authoritative tone, expecting compliance rather than seeking reconciliation. The most recent sent on my birthday had simply stated, "It's time to end this. Call your mother." I maintained my boundaries with both of them. I didn't respond to messages, didn't engage with attempts to communicate through extended family, and didn't waver in my decision to protect my well-being. Dr. Carter had helped me understand that real reconciliation, if it ever happened, would require acknowledgement of harm, genuine apology, and demonstrated change, none of which had meaningfully occurred. The most unexpected development was my relationship with Anna. 6 months after her wedding, she had called with surprising news. "James and I are moving to Seattle," she announced. "He got a job offer there, and I can transfer within my company. But I wanted to check with you first. If it would make you uncomfortable having us in the same city, we'll look at other options." The fact that she considered my feelings before making this decision was itself evidence of how much our relationship had changed. After careful consideration, I gave my blessing with the understanding that we would continue to develop our sibling relationship independently from our parents. Since their move 2 months ago, we had established a weekly dinner tradition. It was during one of these dinners that Anna shared something that confirmed my decision to maintain boundaries with our parents. "They still don't get it," she said, pushing food around her plate. "Mom called yesterday and spent 20 minutes complaining that you won't respond to her messages. When I suggested she try to understand why you cut contact in the first place, she said, 'We gave him everything, and this is how he repays us.' They're still completely blind to their role in all this." "That doesn't surprise me," I replied. "How are you handling it?" "Better with James's support and my own therapy. I'm learning to set my own boundaries. I love them, but I can see the relationship clearly now, in a way I couldn't before." Therapy had been essential to my healing process. Dr. Carter had helped me understand that the grief of family estrangement never completely disappears but transforms over time. She had guided me through recognizing and challenging the conditioned guilt and obligation that had kept me tethered to unhealthy dynamics for so long. "What you've done isn't abandonment," she told me during one particularly powerful session. "It's an act of courage and self-preservation. You're not running away from something. You're moving toward health and authenticity." That framing had helped me weather the difficult moments when cultural expectations and ingrained beliefs made me question my decision. I wasn't cutting ties out of spite or revenge. I was creating space for healing and growth that wasn't possible within the old relationship dynamics. Looking back on the years since that fateful text message in the ICU, I could trace a journey from devastation to rebuilding to genuine contentment. The path hadn't been linear, and it certainly wasn't complete. But I had arrived at a place I never thought possible. A life defined by authentic connections rather than obligatory ones. By mutual respect rather than one-sided. Expectations. The most profound lesson I had learned was that self-worth isn't determined by utility to others. For too long, I had measured my value by what I could provide financially, emotionally, practically, rather than recognizing my inherent worth as a person deserving of love and respect. I had also learned that family isn't solely defined by blood. Family can be the people who show up when you're in crisis, who respect your boundaries, who celebrate your successes without jealousy, who love you without conditions or expectations. By that definition, I had built a family around me that was more genuine and supportive than my biological one had ever been. As I reflect on this journey, I wonder how many others are trapped in toxic family dynamics, believing they have no choice but to endure. If you're watching this, and my story resonates with you, know that you deserve relationships that build you up rather than drain you. Setting boundaries isn't selfish. It's essential for well-being. Your worth isn't determined by what you can give to others, but by who you are. Have you ever had to set difficult boundaries with family or friends? How did you navigate that challenging territory? Share your experiences in the comments below. Your story might help someone else feeling trapped in a similar situation. If this video resonated with you, please hit the like button and subscribe to the channel for more stories about overcoming life's challenges. And remember, sometimes the family we choose is more healing than the family we're born into. Thank you for listening to my story, and I wish you courage on your own journey toward authentic relationships and self-worth.